Is it better to live in Canada or Croatia? I get this question all the time as a Canadian expat living here in Zagreb, and I never really quite know what to answer to that because there are pros to living in both countries. I've lived here for 9 years now, so I feel like I've had enough time here to kind of get to know the bigger and the more subtle differences to living in each country. So also just a quick disclaimer, these are based off of my own experiences living in Canada and Croatia, and they might vary from other people's experiences. So it's not such a straightforward answer of what country it's better to live in. This is just a brief kind of summary of the differences that I find by living here versus living in Canada. So first off, Canada is my home country, so I'll always feel at home in Canada, no matter how long it's been between trips back. I love Canada and I always will. But I also do feel very connected to Croatia, not only because I've been living here for a while now, but also because, of course, Ivan is Croatian and my 3 babies were born here in Croatia. So Croatia is definitely in my heart. Okay, so now let's get into the details. I'm going to go through topic by topic and give either Croatia or Canada a point, depending on who I think wins each category. Some topics are quite surface level and others are a bit deeper, so here we go. Okay, so now let's talk about weather. Croatia has much shorter winters, which I really like. I do like a little bit of winter, don't get me wrong. I like 4 seasons, I like a bit of snow. But Croatia has just the right amount, in my opinion, where we live in Zagreb. In Canada, winters just last a really long time. It can snow in May, and just when you think summer's around the corner, you have snow pants on the next day. So the weather's just a little crazy, especially in springtime when you just kind of want everything to warm up, and it just takes so long for spring to arrive. But on the other hand, the one thing that's great about Canadian winters, because the winters are longer and colder, they set up these outdoor skating rinks in all the city parks, and I love that, and I wish they had that here. But it's just, the winter is not cold enough or long enough really for that to make sense. So that's one great thing about Canadian winters. But all in all, I'd say point goes to Croatia. You still get 4 seasons, at least where we are in Zagreb, and spring comes right when you're ready for it. Okay, so now nature and beauty. Canada has mountains, lakes, oceans, beautiful national parks. Croatia has mountains, lakes, the sea, beautiful national parks. Both countries have extraordinary beauty, and so I'm gonna have to give a point to each. So the next topic is travel, both within country and out of country. Croatia is great because the country is so small, you can drive from one end to the other in 10-12 hours. So you can really see each region in a short amount of time, and you can just travel throughout really easily by car. You can also travel all within Europe from Croatia by car, which is really convenient. A few years ago, we took a little trip to the Netherlands and to Belgium. Olivia was 2, Mate had just turned 1, and I was pregnant with Sophia. But we drove all the way to the Netherlands, to Belgium. It's just super easy to plan a last-minute trip to go traveling anywhere you want really within Europe. Also, there are very affordable flights within Europe, and it's just easy to get around in this continent. For travel within Canada, you pretty much have to fly everywhere, but you can get to the islands down south really easily, so it's a nice winter escape. And of course, travel to the States is very easy from Canada, but overall, I'd give this point to Croatia because you can travel to so many different places very easily, within the country very easily. But you can really see different cultures, languages, all within a really short period of time. Bureaucracy, paperwork, just the efficiency of it all. I have to give this one to Canada. Sorry, Croatia, but I just do not love the process of getting any paperwork done here. It's complicated and long. I don't know how many times I've cried out of frustration when I've been trying to get some paperwork done just because I've been missing one little piece of paper, a notarized copy of something, a stamp, a translation of something, my preschool diploma. One example is opening a business. So I had a business years ago in Canada when we lived there. I went online, I filled out the application, I paid a fee, and I was a business owner in no time at all. Here, to open up RCT, there were exams involved. There were original copies of diplomas. notarizations, official translations, official documents, just the hoops that we had to jump through to open up our business here. It was just much more complicated and a much longer process in comparison to opening up a business in Canada. Childcare. This one goes to Croatia, hands down. It's very affordable and accessible here. In Canada, I just don't think it would make sense to have 3 children in daycare at the same time. And here it's a non-issue. And they have a really great program. They also serve breakfast and a morning snack and lunch with dessert and an afternoon snack. Financially in Canada, to send 3 kids to daycare at the same time, it just wouldn't make sense. So point goes to Croatia. We're just really happy with the daycare, childcare here. Okay, standard of living. So definitely salaries are higher in Canada. People just make more money in Canada. But of course it's all relative and things are more expensive in Canada to buy, so you need a higher salary to be able to afford a basic lifestyle. But I feel like in Canada it's a lot easier for families to save and just put some money away. Whereas here in Croatia, I feel like it's a lot harder for families to put money away at the end of the month. More of a paycheck to paycheck. There's just more opportunity to save if you live in Canada on a typical Canadian income. So point here goes to Canada. There are some things that are actually cheaper though in Canada than in Croatia. Buying a car. Cars are cheaper in Canada. Also electronics, computers, any type of electronics. There's more selection and it's a lot cheaper than in Croatia. Another thing is gas. Gas is much cheaper in Canada. Here are the averages in Canada versus Croatia at the time of editing this. Any kind of beauty treatments like hair, nails, massages, those are all cheaper here. Dining out, that can vary of course depending on what restaurant you're going to, but generally it's cheaper here in Croatia. Last one, cell phone bills are so much cheaper here in Croatia. Pace of life and lifestyle, that definitely goes to Croatia. It's just a bit more relaxed here, a bit less rushed, a bit less hectic than things are, I feel, back home. People have time to sit for coffee for a couple hours and just enjoy more of a European lifestyle. The lifestyle in Canada is a lot more work-centered, I feel, and here just people tend to relax a bit more, enjoy each other's company more, spend more time with family and friends than typically people do in Canada. One thing I will touch on with employment in Canada is youth employment, teenage employment, which I really like. Many teenagers in Canada have a part-time job in high school, starting in high school. Having a part-time job really teaches so much. Time management, responsibility, money management. I just think it's a wonderful thing for teenagers. I know I really liked it when I was younger. My first job, I think I got when I was 16 and I worked at Canadian Tire. And I loved it. It was just great to have my own spending money and we just had that kind of teenage work culture there. I know my brother, he couldn't wait to enter the workforce. I think the legal working age in Ontario is 14 and I think the day he turned 14, he got his first job pushing buggies at a grocery store near us. But he just couldn't wait to jump in. He couldn't wait to earn his own money, to save his own money. Here that doesn't exist, I think because there's really not an opportunity really for teenagers to work here. A lot of those jobs that students do back home are actually taken by full-time employees here. So there's just not the opportunity for teenagers to work here. So I really like that about living in Canada. So that's one more point for Canada. Croatia has excellent coffee. They really have great coffee. They know how to make it, they know how to drink it, they know how to sip it. In Croatia, coffee is a lot about socializing. So it's not just about the coffee, even though the coffee is delicious, but it's also about socializing. Spending time with people, catching up, just kind of enjoying each other's company with coffee. Whereas in Canada, people take coffee a lot just on the run or sit down at their desk and drink it by themselves. In Croatia, a lot revolves around coffee. Definitely Croatia gets that point. But there's a small piece of me that wants to give Canada the point for that just because I like Tim Hortons so much. Not even because it has the best coffee, because it doesn't. It's just some kind of nostalgic feeling I have. And maybe I wouldn't have that if I lived there and I had access to it every day, but I just love the feeling of drinking Tim's. It just feels like home. So I do miss that. But taste-wise, culture-wise, Croatia gets the coffee point. One great thing about living in Canada is when you're out on the run, you can just do a drive-through to get a quick lunch. Here they don't have that really. The options are very limited. I think the only drive-through is McDonald's and that's it. I do just miss the ease of picking up a meal when we're out and about. So that's one more point for Canada. Bakeries. This point goes to Croatia for sure. They're on every corner. It's also part of the culture here. Also, people eat fresh bread, never bagged. People usually don't even eat second day bread here. The bread is delicious. The pastries they have are delicious. We recently did a video on Croatian pastries, so check it out if you haven't seen it already. Croatia wins the bakery point by far. Okay, so food. I do love the food in Croatia. They have delicious, excellent traditional food here, but I also just really love the diversity of food that you can get in Canada. Just being able to get such a variety of different foods from different cultures is really amazing. And you can really try new foods all the time. When we lived in Toronto, Evan and I, we used to go once a month and try a new cuisine. You can't get too much of that in Croatia, although I will say it's come a long way in the past 9 years since I've been living here. I just feel like the quality isn't the same as it is back home in Canada because Canada is so multicultural. So there are many people who have come from different parts of the world and immigrated and started their own restaurants. So the quality is just a little bit better in that way. It's just a little bit more authentic, I guess. So point here goes to Canada. Customer service in restaurants especially. This goes to Canada just because people there mainly work off of tips. And so they're just a little bit extra kind and extra attentive, I guess, to their tables because, of course, they're working for that extra money through their service. Whereas in Croatia, people work on salaries and it's not so much about the tips. So that's definitely one reason why I just think the customer service is just a little bit different in Canada. When you eat in a restaurant in Canada, people will come to your table multiple times to make sure that you have everything you need, to make sure that everything tastes okay, just to make sure your meal is going smoothly. In Croatia, a lot of the time the servers will come to take your order, to bring your food or drinks, and then to bring the bill. And that's pretty much it. If you need something, you find your waiter and then you ask him or her for whatever you need. And in Canada, it just doesn't ever get to the point where you have to find your waiter. They come to your table 5-6 times just to see if everything's okay, to see if you need anything. So I guess in Canada, the servers are just one step ahead of the guest just to make sure that they have the best experience possible. Okay, vacation time. Let's talk about vacation time because Croatia clearly wins this one by a mile. In the summer, Croatians take off not just 1 or 2 weeks, but 3-4 weeks to go spend at the coast and have a lovely, leisurely summer by the sea. The minimum number of weeks in Canada for vacation is 2. In Croatia, when you start working, your minimum number of days off is 20 working days. So that is a month. And people actually use all of their vacation days here. I know in Canada, sometimes even with the 2-3 weeks people have, they don't end up using it all because they're just too busy. Here, that really doesn't happen much. People here really do use their vacation. They enjoy their vacation. So the point here definitely goes to Croatia. Okay, so education is the next point. Canada is known to have a really great education system. I went through the whole system and I loved it. I have never been through the Croatian system, so I can't comment on the actual schools, although my kids will start school soon, so I'll see through them. But Canada really does rank among the top in the world for education, so I'm gonna have to give that point to Canada. Another reason I'm giving the point to Canada though, in Croatia there are split shifts for schooling. I don't know about all cities, but at least here in Zagreb. So the first shift of school goes from 8 to 2, say, and then the second shift goes from 2 to 8. And so the first week you'll go to school in the morning shift, so 8 to 2, and then the next week you'll go to school in the afternoon, so from 2 to 8. They do that because they just don't have the physical space, I think, to have all the students go in the same shift throughout the city. But it's a great use of the actual school buildings because you're using it all day long. It's definitely going to save on energy. You're heating one school instead of 2 for the same amount of students. So it definitely is practical in those ways. I just think it would be so impractical as a parent just having multiple kids on different shifts of school, juggling that plus extracurriculars. I just think it would be super hectic. I also just think it's kind of harder on kids to go to school in the afternoon. I'm sure they get used to it and kids are adaptable and they'll be fine. But I think for parents, I don't know, it just seems like it would be really hectic and just a lot to juggle. Okay, so healthcare, both countries have universal healthcare, so point for each. Also maternity leave, so both countries do a 1-year mat leave, which is great, so point for each there. And some other things that I think are comparable is just safety. Canada's a pretty safe country, so is Croatia. Across the board, they're both very safe countries. But if you want to compare bigger cities, then I think Croatia's bigger cities feel safer safer than Canada's bigger cities. Zagreb versus Toronto, I think that I feel safer in Zagreb than I do in Toronto, just because they are on a smaller scale, and I think there's less crime. Okay, so those are the main points that I came up with about living in Croatia versus Canada. They're both amazing countries. I love living in both places. I love both countries, so it's hard to have a clear winner. The points are pretty much equal, but if you are looking at this list seeing where it's really better to live, then I guess you'd have to just weigh out which points are more important to you, and then you can kind of judge based on that. But they're both really nice countries to live in. I feel at home in both countries, but I absolutely do miss Canada, and I do miss my friends and family, of course, from back home. But this was just kind of an outline of, I guess, lifestyle here versus there. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you all again soon.